so this video is going to be about my personal Nepantla map. You may be wondering what Nepantla even is, and if that's the case, I got you. Gloria Anzaldúa, an amazing queer Chicana writer, describes it as the threshold region between different spheres of existence. In simpler terms, it's where your discourses, which is who you are and what you do, pretty much your identity, meet and oftentimes clash or support or even align with current beliefs that you already have. Additionally, when I use the term sponsor, it means that whoever I'm talking about in that particular story or in that memory assisted me in learning something new about my passion or myself. In my case, I have multiple Nepantlas in which I'm not too sure about which part of my identity I should show. To start off, I'll talk about my creative discourse, in which my identity, which I portray in my music or my videos that I make, reside. I remember whenever I would watch videos on YouTube before it blew up, I saw that people got to make anything they wanted and profit off of it. Specifically, I would watch skits from Ryan Higa and be like, wow, it seems like he's really enjoying what he's doing and he's making people really happy. And I pretty much knew from then on that one day I wanted to create something that would let me accomplish that goal. I understood that to do this, I needed to start putting my name out there and start writing content. The internet in general is a great resource to learn whatever you want. In my case, it allowed me to learn about programs that allowed me to create music or edit videos. So I would say that the internet sponsored my passion for entertainment. Sadly, growing on social media where I'm from isn't exactly the easiest thing to do, so make sure to support local businesses. Next up, my basketball discourse.
Shoot too hard, don't stand too close. You gon' around and drown off this way. Doing all these shows, I've been on the road. I don't care where I go, long as I keep.
I've been playing and watching basketball for as long as I can remember. Basketball has always played an integral part in my childhood, as my family and a lot of my good friends like to either play or spectate the game. One memory I recall from earlier this year is around February time, my high school basketball team had just lost their playoff game. We had just come off a great run just to even make the playoffs, and that's with a shorthanded team, as we lost a lot of really good players due to injuries or to academic reasons. At one point, I think half of the team was even injured. Unfortunately, losing those players meant that we never really had the chance to show what we were capable of. So we went into the playoffs as the 4th seed from our district, so that means we had to play the 1st seed in the other district. Regardless, we still only lost the game by 5 points, and honestly, that's a little bit inflated because we're fouling to extend the game. However, losing by 5 made it hurt even more, knowing that we could have beat that team if we had our entire team with us. I'll never forget the moment in that locker room where everybody came together as a team to support one another. I mean, those guys are honestly like brothers to me, and it was just an emotional time because that's the last time that a lot of us were going to put on a jersey. I'm pretty sure a lot of people knew that. Overall, my basketball experience has shown me the importance of brotherhood and teamwork, and honestly it's the reason why I like to incorporate my basketball experiences into my writing. Now on to my favorite, my computers and games discourse, because they kind of go hand in hand. I've always loved playing games, and ultimately that led me to appreciating the technology that went behind those games that I played. So back when the PS2 was a big deal, my brother, my dad, and I, we'd always be playing games together. We even took turns playing on my dad's Steam account to play Counter-Strike, which was one of the first popular online shooter games. We all enjoyed playing games together, even if it was just a single-player game. Now fast forward to when computer games started to blow up. Of course, my brother and I played those together too. At this point, my dad had naturally just grown away from games in general, so now it's just up to the siblings. My brother introduced me to a game called League of Legends. I don't know, you might have heard of it. And from then on, I fell in love with it. I love the competitive nature in the game, the strategies involved in it, and the new experiences that this whole new genre of games gave me. Eventually, I started looking into how the game was made, like the process behind making some of my favorite characters that were in the game. And I became interested in pursuing a path in the STEM field in order to potentially get a job at a game developing company. I'd say that due to my experiences with games, I was introduced to new opportunities with computers and coding. And last but not least, my family discourse. I'm Filipino, which means that I love Manny Pacquiao, singing karaoke, and obviously my culture. However, all of my immediate family, other than my nuclear one, live in the Philippines. Last summer, my family and I went on a trip to the Philippines for 1 month after being away for 12 years. The last time I went there, I was only in kindergarten, and that was 2 years after we moved to the States. So obviously I was excited at the opportunity to visit family who, honestly, I'd lost touch with. I haven't communicated with them in person in a really long time. Most of the time it'd be a quick happy birthday or Merry Christmas, and then I'd be on my way. When we got there, Not to my surprise, we were immediately welcomed by my family, and keep in mind we got there really late. It was probably 2 in the morning. It's hard to say who impacted me the most on that trip, but if I really had to choose, I'd say it was my cousins. And when I say cousins, I'm not talking just my mom's side or just my dad's side, because honestly they're friends with each other and they're like brothers and sisters to me. It honestly felt like we never left because we clicked immediately as soon as we got there. I mean, I was pretty much with them the entire time. They even skipped school to come hang out with us, and that's heavily frowned upon in our culture. The trip allowed me to learn how to enjoy life and to appreciate where I came from. That's why I'm never ashamed to write about my culture or the fact that I'm Filipino, because honestly, I'm very proud of it. Okay, now on to the connections, as Nepantla is all about connections. There's multiple connections in the stories that I just told. You could see part of my family in my basketball discourse and in my computers and games discourse. You could also see my computers and games transfer over to my creative discourse. And my basketball discourse also heavily influences my computers and games discourse. So let's start with the supportive ones. So discourses that support each other pretty much allow you to take one thing that you learn from a discourse and apply it to another one. For example, my knowledge in computers and games that I gained from my family also allowed me to be knowledgeable in my creative discourse. I'll start off with the computers and games discourse supporting the creative discourse. So my knowledge in computers and games allowed me to learn the programs that I talked about in my creative discourse. As for my family, they sponsor my literacy in computers, games, and basketball. If you notice in my story, I was always talking about my childhood in those areas. How my brother and dad would always play games with me, and how we'd always watch basketball games with each other. So moving on to the discourses that align with each other's views. From the ones that I talked about, there's only 2 that really align with each other's views. It's my basketball discourse and my computers and games discourse. In my basketball discourse, I talked about how teamwork is important. And in games nowadays that are mostly multiplayer, teamwork is definitely important. So things that I learned in my basketball discourse could also be applied to my computers and games discourse, and the same vice versa. Because things that you learn in games could definitely help you in real life. And if you don't agree with me, that's for another video. Now, for the most interesting one in my opinion, is the one that conflicts. So my family, they don't really know that I make videos. So my family discourse and my creative discourse, they just kind of disagree with one another. The way that I portray myself online is definitely not how I act around my parents. So in those moments where I'm around my parents and then I just get the sudden urge to make music or edit a video, it's kind of hard to decide if I should do that, because I know I really like it, but it's not really what they want me to do right now. So with those discourses that conflict with one another, you're not exactly sure about which way it could go. It could end up supporting each other or aligning with each other's views. But what I do know is that something beautiful can come from that conflict, and you'll never know until you try. Alright, that's pretty much my Nepantla map. Keep in mind, it's definitely not everything. I only picked 4 of my discourses, and I know that everybody has much more than that. So that's only the tip of the iceberg. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, and now have a better understanding of what Nepantla is. See y'all next time.